Stealth balloon or unidentified object over Montana just last night. And lots of conflicting reports about what the pilots did sight. I got to tell you guys, this is getting really strange with what they're talking about for the couple of the latest objects that were taken down. And I use the words objects because that's the word they use. Not balloons, objects. And it's getting stranger and stranger, my friends. This is Greg Allison with Green Greg's, Galactic Greg's, and Swivelhead News, bringing you news and views that don't make you spews. Let's hope. Anyway, guys, this is a odd thing. And last night, over Montana, right just south of the Canadian border, right in the middle of the state, between Big Sandy and Harvey. To speak to a very special person. There was a sighting of on radar, an anomaly of an object. They scrambled jets up to it, didn't say anything. But my friend Wheelbarger last night was also showing this radar anomaly on his screens. He found it, and there it was. There was some anomaly there. They shut down the airspace, scrambled jet fighters, and nobody saw anything. Now, it could have been a balloon or something else that they couldn't see. But, guys, this is getting really odd because the objects apparently that were taken down over Alaska and Canada over the previous couple of days really were described to be about the same. Neither one was described to be like the Chinese spy balloon, weapons platform, whatever it might have been, a test balloon, trial balloon. The situation, which, guys, balloons like that, you got to worry about. They can carry one, over a ton. They can definitely be a weapons platform. And I've already covered in previous videos what that can mean in terms of the threats of an EMP to this country, even if detonated offshore in international airspace. That could be devastating to this nation, absolutely devastating. Don't make no doubt about it. But these littler balloons aren't big enough to carry anything more than, 3 or 4 pounds. They're not big enough to carry any kind of weapons platform. And you're talking about balloons the size of a car. Apparently, the 2 that were taken down last had some were said to be the size of a car and were said to be cylindrical. Okay. Furthermore, they were said to be silver. Now, even a polyethylene balloon can look silverish, so I could see that. Silver almost invokes an idea of metal, but it doesn't mean it was metal. Now, there are cylindrical balloons. Cylindrical balloons fly in an orientation like this, up and down. Nobody said anything about what the orientation was. I have not heard that. Now, there is another type, lighter than air aircraft, or a couple of them, called blimps and dirigibles. They fly this way, but they have shape and actually have airbags inside them with that lifting gas up on this end. And they have ballonets and controls down here, and they usually have a pod hanging underneath it with a couple of engines on it and tail fins so they can drive it around through the air like a big aircraft. That's what you get with a blimp. That's what a blimp is. A blimp doesn't have, a blimp and an airship are very similar, but a blimp doesn't have a rigid structure to the craft, but there's structure in the way it's sewn and put together, but it's not rigid. An airship is a rigid air structure. They have frames inside of them, inside the airship itself, not something hanging below. I've hung frames and structures underneath balloons I fly with rockets in them, or the ones I used to fly anyway. So, guys, and cut it in again, actually. So, that's an airship. A blimp flies like this. A balloon, if it's cylindrical, flies like that. And usually you'd use a cylindrical balloon. It might be a little cheaper to make, especially somebody's making it on their own, like out of their backyard. It's hard to make one with the whole gas, though. Yeah, because you got to really get the seams right. And you got a lot of pressure around this interface right here with a balloon. Because of what a balloon wants to do, if it's not a zero pressure balloon, if it's if it's a zero pressure balloon, excuse me, which means it would vent excess helium to the outside from the bottom if it got over too high, too fast, so it wouldn't pop. They want to achieve a teardrop type shape because the lift gas is pushing up, so it wants to push up and out. So they tend to have a teardrop shape to them as they're going up. You've seen that. A super pressure balloon has positive pressure inside, but the gas is still lighter than the air it's displacing. It's just that more pressure because it's a smaller molecule of gas. It will get a sphere. It'll be spherical, kind of like your party balloons, spherical. It's much your party balloons, aren't they? If you blow it up, it ain't gonna float. You use an atmospheric air, but it's got pressure, a little bit more pressure on the inside than on the outside. They will be spherical. So a cylindrical object is neither. But there are cylindrical balloons, but they do have a lot of pressure on this interface because that's not the shape it wants to be. When you put something in a shape that's not natural to what it wants to assume, it's got structural risk. But now for a balloon that's going to rise real fast, whoop, that makes a lot of sense. And you can also have a vent at the bottom to vent it. So it could be a zero pressure balloon. As a super pressure balloon, that's very unstable to achieve. The flight altitudes of both of those were said to be the same, about 40,000 feet, which is low for a balloon, unless you have a super pressure balloon and you really set it to fly at that kind of altitude. That's unusual. So these are unusual objects. The one first taken out of Alaska was said to be taken out because it was a violation of our airspace. It was a threat to aviation. There's a lot of aviation in Alaska, especially since the Anchorage airport is a real global traffic hub, and everybody in Alaska flies. But this is jet level traffic, not the bush pilot traffic at 40,000 feet. So you really got to ask yourself a lot of questions about this. But we first heard that balloon was taken down over the Aleutian Islands. Now reports are coming out saying it was Dead Horse up on the Arctic Ocean, around, just east of Prudhoe Bay, around where our national naval oil reserves are supposed to be. The stuff we'll never drill, apparently. That's what they mean by reserves in this case. But that's really strange. So the reports have changed for what was saying. Now they're telling us that the one that they shot down over the Yukon, which is not far from there, by the way, over the Arctic Ocean, over the Yukon, Dead Horse, those are really close. Those may have been, and both described the same. If they're balloons, they may have came from the same source. Who knows? Maybe somebody at Point Barrows making balloons and sending them up, and they're just drifting over there. Could be. It could be they're coming from Russia, or they could have come up from China. But these are a lot farther north into Alaska than, say, the one that came across before. The distance difference being like, the U.S.-Canadian border versus, the Ohio River. Halfway up and down the nation. Alaska is huge, okay? Yeah, Alaska is very, very big. A lot bigger. If Alaska was divided into two states, Texas would be the third largest state. It takes Texas and New Mexico together to make up half of Alaska. Okay, all that said, Alaska's huge. So there's a lot of difference in latitude there, where one went and the other went. That's the whole point. But the other two were not that far apart, and they had about the same description. Size of a car, cylindrical balloons, but all the descriptions don't match. The F-22 pilots have different descriptions. One of them said he did not understand how it stayed in the air. It was propulsionless. Well, a balloon don't have any propulsion, but, and a balloon will float. But that notion seems to defy the idea that this is something that ought to be floating. So what was it? What was it? Was it a balloon? Something else? What it was, they shot it down. So aliens, be aware. Don't fly in our skies. You might wind up with soiled underwear. No kidding. So I guess what happened to Montana? Oh my God, they're shooting us down. Turn on the cloaking device. Turn on the cloaking device. I don't know, guys. I'm having a little fun with this. You got to, because it's weird, strange, but it's also serious. Something the size of a car. Yeah. If it's a balloon, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's a balloon, it's not going to carry anything that can harm us. I hear a lot of people talk about biologicals and chemicals. Okay, let's address that for a second. When you're 40,000 feet and above, it's cold. It's severely cold, up to 60,000. I have in July sent a balloon to 115,000 feet, right in the middle of July here in Alabama, and it was 60 below zero where the balloon went. So you're talking, 30, 40 below zero as you go up these high altitudes. It's cold, and there's very little air pressure. 20,000 feet, the air pressure is only 1% what it is on the surface of the Earth. And the ultraviolet radiation is very intense, very intense. So any biological would get wiped out by the solar in the daytime and the solar radiation. Anything else is going to freeze. And a dispersant for a chemical system isn't going to work very well because it's going to freeze up. So you got a lot of issues up there with trying to disperse chemical and biological agents from a balloon. and all that. Even if you did release them at nighttime, it's just biologicals, and you have a little powder, and you open the box, and the powder floats out. It takes a long time for it to go down to the ground from that altitude. It'll probably be daytime before it start to reach the ground. And once again, the sun comes out, UV will kill everything. You can take a bottle, a regular little clear plastic bottle, if it's no bigger around than this, and put water in it with bacteria in it. As long as it's clear water, you got to filter out the sediments and anything that makes it not clear. Throw it on your back and walk around with it on your back in the sunlight for a couple of hours. And it'll be safe to drink it to kill the bacteria. Should be. I don't take it as a prescription, but the UV will kill bacteria. And that's why hanging clothes out to dry is so good. UV kills bacteria, kills viruses. So this is a way to sanitize water. And so coming down from the atmosphere, especially if you're powder, not even water droplets, you're going to be cooked by the ultraviolet radiation, especially at those altitudes. So I don't, I'm not saying it couldn't disturb stuff, but it's not a good way to do it at all. It's not going to be effective. It's not, and furthermore, if you already want to disperse biologicals and chemicals in the United States, well, just send them across the southern border. You can send truckloads of stuff in the United States across the southern border. Look at all the drugs that come in the United States all the time. Just send it across the southern border. You can send whatever you want. Anything you want, probably sneak a nuke in the United States across the southern border. You can sneak tanks across the southern border. I mean, God knows all the stuff that's coming across our border. You probably could see a tank. But guys, I'm being somewhat facetious, but look at all the drugs that come in this nation. Tell me that if somebody don't get something here, they could smuggle it in large quantity, a lot more than you can bring in a balloon. And if you want to disperse it on the ground in crowds, like it's always been done. And when they do this stuff, they typically do it in the subway where there's a lot of people going back and forth, or like maybe Super Bowl, or that's coming up today, right? Any place where you get a lot of people gathered, airports, bus stations, but really the main people hubs, malls, shopping malls. The biggest targets would be something like subways. That's already been tried. There's a Japanese terrorist group, religious, sect that tried to use ricin in a subway. So, I'm not saying anything new. People already know this. So this whole idea of biologicals and chemicals, I don't worry about that. There's too many reasons why a balloon would be a very bad platform for doing that. And there's too many other ways to do it that are a whole lot more effective, that are a lot easier to do in reality. So why would you do it on a balloon? Why would you even bother? Why bother? If you want to contaminate crops, all somebody's got to do is just drive along the car and get a little puff spray and kind of spray out the windows as they go. That'd be more effective than a balloon. I'm not saying anything that the terrorists don't know. I'm just trying to put things in perspective, guys. So I don't see a lot of a threat out of something the size of a car. In fact, it probably won't have a good intel package on it, like the one that flew over all the way across the United States with the ginormous 3 to 5 kW solar array panel on board. That had all kind of, it's been reported, it had intel snooping devices on board quite a bit. So picking up cell phone and stuff, you couldn't get from a satellite. So there you go, my friends. So these objects that were shot down, the last two, are odd, just odd. The reports from the F-22 pilots are odd. What is it? What is happening? I don't know. Just says odd. We're getting a little trigger happy. Let me show a couple articles with you real quick. Ding, 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 ding. And one of them talks about the trigger happiness. Problem is, and I've been amongst the scientific balloon community. This has got them quaking in their boots because they're afraid that all their experiments are going to get shot down. People devote lifetimes to developing experiments to fly on balloons, and now they're really worried that their scientific research is going to be over. So that's why I said we need to have judgment as to what we take down. If something's a potential threat, take it down. But if but you need to have judgment. Does it make sense as a potential threat? Something the size of a car, if it's a balloon, it's not a threat. There may be something else. That place don't sound like it, right? Meet Jet Jordan. I don't know. Let me do a share here. Ding, 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 ding. This is roughly where that balloon was sighted. From there in Big Sandy. It was showing on the radar from Big Sandy last night on Lake Wheelbarger. See, here's the odd thing. They all call them objects. In fact, no, they use this language, unidentified object that was flying. suggested taking down an unidentified object. This is the common terminology in use right now. Not UAP, but unidentified object. That was fine. Does that make them UFOs? Yeah. Trudeau himself said, I ordered the takedown of an unidentified object that violated Canadian airspace. See there? Unidentified object. Really strange language coming out of the government, coming out of the media. Fox News, what was pointed out this morning from Lisa Haven's channel was that Fox News on their video talking about this was showing the little tic tac flying around in the background. Really strange stuff. Strange stuff. Yeah, see, and they use this language throughout here. So on the Pentagon, the White House, and there's just nothing in these top level press releases that say much. But what they did say in the press releases, didn't make it into this on videos, was that they didn't know what entity they came from. Really strange language again. Whose they were, not like that. So, but we do know that Montana Congressman Matt Rosendale, he was notified about this stuff being over his area. But as I said earlier, the aircraft did not identify any object to correlate to the radar hits. Strange stuff, guys. Strange stuff. Giant freaking robot just jumps and calls them UFOs. Wow. And GOP rep says, hey, it's no coincidence that these things are selling over America. He says, I don't think it's a coincidence that it was timed to coincide with Secretary Blinken's visit, though they don't have proof of that yet. That was Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin. So he thinks, and Schumer's in agreement, Chucky Schumer, that this was meant to embarrass the United States, especially the Blinken visit. It could have been something else. There's a lot of ideas as to what it was meant and the timing of it, especially coincident with the Super Bowl for some reason. All these things blowing up. I don't know, guys. But hey, Chinese spy balloons aren't the only way they're spying on us. Not only do they have TikTok, but apparently Android phones transmit your data back to China. Just like if you take a genetic test, China now bought all those companies out, so they got everybody's genome who sends test data in. Now that they're not, you got your genome, they got your personal phone, and got you down to your bone. That's a little disconcerting that a nation who loves their Uyghurs the way they do would be taking all kind of detailed personal information on Americans and everybody else in the world, from down to your genome. Here's Chucky Schumer talking about it. Well, he said that the Chinese were humiliated because he got caught lying. But when does China really ever humiliated about anything? They just keep lying. Hey, I don't have anything against the people in China. I'm talking about the CCP. I love the Chinese people. Really do. I've had a lot of good Chinese people as friends and dated 3. Even had one propose marriage to me. So, and I probably should have took her up on it. So let's see. But you know what? It's always going to revert back to politics, no matter what. So now I got to agree with this one. This guy is kind of agreeing with a Republican, agreeing with Biden, partially. He's saying that that he had preferred that Biden administration be trigger happy with the suspected spy balloons, but he thought they were too permissive when the other one came across. He says they do appear to be somewhat trigger happy, though it is certainly preferable to being to the permissive environment that they showed when the Chinese spy balloon was coming over some of the most sensitive sites. So, yes, the CNN program will stay the Union. So he said it's preferable to be trigger happy than to let them get over our sensitive sites. I don't disagree with that. In fact, it's not just been over sensitive sites because they're potential EMP weapons platforms. They should not be anywhere near American airspace. Even close to us, they're dangerous. I've shown and will show further the risk of that, but it's having other impacts. U.S. states are now considering this even more as they're weighing in restrictions on Chinese buying up their farmland. Yeah, I should go with that's a whole nother subject, guys. But hey, like I said, politics keeps going on. So the good thing, rest assured that when the space aliens do land at the Super Bowl tonight or wherever they may choose in the future, The politicians will be blaming each other for it. It was Biden's fault. It was Trump's fault. It was this one. It was that one. So, yeah, let's see. Maria Bartim, how do you say that? Bartrich. Anyway, I'm not going there. She said that Biden allowed all this to happen with the Chinese balloon come across the United States because China has so much dirt on him and his son. Maybe. But, you know, the Democrats blame Trump. You know, oh, this was going on in the Trump administration and all the Trump defense. And even Mustache, who don't really like Trump. He was the Secretary of State, you know. But he kept Bolton, you know, he came out and, you know, his nickname Stash. Wasn't nobody wearing a stash. All right. So he came out and I'm not fond of him, by the way, but he came out and defended Trump administration, which was a twist because he'd been twisting the knife in the Trump administration. He says, no, we didn't know anything about that. That didn't happen. And then some people said lower level Pentagon people knew, but they were afraid to tell it up. You know, I don't know, guys. It's just a circus in Washington, D.C. So like I said, rest assured, the one thing we do know is when the space aliens do land, the politicians will fight each other, each blame each other for it. I'm not saying space aliens are going to land, okay? I'm just having a little fun with this. But there's a lot of people that are concerned with this notion of some kind of a false flag operation, something that might happen and for certain groups to gain power or this or that and the other, and there may be a faked alien event. I don't know. So guys, it's getting weird. That's all I'm gonna say. It's getting weird. It's dangerous and weird at the same time. So I don't know. It's hard not want to make some of this stuff right now. But I've definitely got my eyes wide open, my head on a swivel. We're watching to see what happens. I know what things that are potential. I've done whole videos on my Galactic Drugs channel about UFOs. Quite a few. I said they're not from here. They're not from space. In one video. Okay. And I got more to come out in that territory. So there's a lot of discussion that's going to be interesting coming down the road. So eyes wide open, head on a swivel. Subscribe to my channels. Oh yeah, and by the way, check out my prepwithgreg.com. I got long-term prepping supplies available. Our kind of prepping supplies and long-term food storage with a great special on them. It also pulls in some special gifts with prepping supplies. So check with prepwithgreg.com. If you need worms, go to bringgregs.com. Thank y'all for watching.